Welcome to another episode of the Walk Podcast. Today, I'm joined by right tackle Brandon Baker of the Texas Longhorns. Welcome to the show, Brandon.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, Jacob.
Of course. With each guest, I like to start out with a little bit of an intro. So, Brandon is from Ontario, California. He played his high school football at the legendary Mater Dei High School. He's currently a sophomore at the University of Texas, studying sociology. He's the starting right tackle in his sophomore season at Texas and appeared in 7 games last year as a freshman. In high school, he was a 2-time All-American. He was the 2023 LA Times Player of the Year, and he helped lead Mater Dei to a state championship. So Brandon, as I mentioned, grew up in California. What was that like?
It was great. Grew up around football my whole life. So I'm half Samoan. So grew up Polynesian oriented. Big into family. So growing up, I always had lots of aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, but they're really like aunts, uncles, like extended family. So we've always just been around family and football. So that's always been a big thing in our lives. Faith, family, and football.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And growing up, like, when did you start playing football? When did you realize that football could be a long-term thing for you?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. So, like I mentioned, football was always big into our family. But I was somewhere in the middle of my family. So there's about 30 grandkids. So I have about 30 plus first cousins. And I was somewhere in the middle in that range. My older brother, he was actually the oldest out of all of us. And he went to Upland High School in California and graduated and attended the University of Oregon to play football there for about 5 years, from 2015 to 2020. So watching him do it, that was always just like trying to chase after Big Brother. Watching his huddle film, before he went to Upland, he was at Victorville High School, watching his freshman, sophomore film and wanting to do what he did. But then when I would go on the field, I couldn't quite do it. I was always the clumsy, fat, chubby kid running around, lots of energy. I started playing football around 6 years old, but really just for the fun of it. My Uncle Eric, he actually signed me up to play football for the High Desert Patriots. And I always had this belief in my heart. I really didn't know where it came from, that I can do something with football. But when it came to the field, it just wasn't quite there, to be honest. So growing up, I was I was teased that you got 2 left feet, big and clumsy kid. But just kept going at it. It really wasn't until my freshman year of high school. So growing up, I always played defensive line. And once I got to high school, my freshman year, I had this coach named Coach Pat. He had switched me from defensive line to offensive line and told me the scenario, like, you can play defensive line and you could be a good defensive lineman, maybe 10, 15 offers at most. Or you can play offensive line and you'll be a 30, 40-plus offer guy, All-American by the time you get out of here. And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, shoot, let's try it out. Played offensive line, and it really just changed from there, honestly. I feel like in that moment, things changed for me externally, but internally, I always just had this belief in myself that I could do it. I didn't know where it was from originally, but the more I kept going at it, I knew that now I know that God placed it in my heart to use football as a platform.
So when was it that God placed that in your heart?
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned dealing with kind of some bullying and people
Yeah.
saying different things that weren't so nice.
Yeah.
But you're able to overcome that with some like self-confidence, self-belief. So when was the transition from like you believing in yourself to recognizing that there was something bigger there?
Yeah, I would say a turning point for me was probably about my sophomore year of high school. After my sophomore year of high school, after the football season, that's actually when I started picking up as far as recruitment went. Started getting a lot more offers. And then that time, I felt anger. It was weird. I felt ego, pride, knowing that I worked so hard from the time I was 6 years old now to about 15, 16 years old for about 10 years, wanting to prove everyone wrong. And so once I got it, once I got those offers, got that recognition, and now everyone's like, good job, we always believed in you. And I just felt this ego and pride, like, I'm here in this position. Why you guys are congratulating me when in the beginning you guys weren't there? And I was like, yeah, like, I felt like that, but inside it just didn't feel good. Like, I felt I worked so hard with the intention of proving everyone wrong, and that's all it was. And so I felt like my heart posture began to change around a year later, actually, my junior year of high school. Started getting into more of like self-development or self-improvement, you can say. And also, I feel like social media played a big part in my faith journey. I was going through some difficult times leading up to like 8th grade to like about sophomore year of high school. Depression, relationship problems going on, family problems going on. And I was just in a really dark place, honestly. So that fueled me to keep going. But once I got there, it was just like I was empty. And there was this TikTok that I saw one day, and it was a quote about how this person showed up to church and their pastor said, if God woke you up today, there's a reason for your pain. There's a reason why you're here today. And the moment I saw that, I just started crying, just broke down. And from then on, that's why I felt like my heart posture changed, knowing that I've been given another day, and I know that God is with me, even through the difficult times. That's when it began to change for me.
That's a powerful turning point.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of times we can think of social media as like negative or a distraction, but that's a great example right there where like there was true life transformation for you and in your heart. So you got to that point where you realized this pain is bringing me purpose and God is with me. What were your next steps from there?
Yeah, my next steps from there was like, now where do I start? Now I know that this purpose in my heart wasn't from me all along, but from you. So now where do I begin? And around that time as well, a few guys that I went to high school with at Modern Day, a few younger guys, Seawall, Sammy, Wheela, a lot of my friends, we began to read in the Bible. We were like, hey, let's start a plan. Let's start a Bible plan on this app. And we started I believe it was a year-long plan on reading the New Testament. And that's really where it began, like, okay, well, Jesus, show me how you lived. Show me what you did. And we just began, I'm not too sure if you're familiar. I'm sure you are. But it goes like introduction, then you read the chapter, and then at the end it's like, what do you feel like God's trying to tell you? Mm-hmm. And so after every one of those, we would just type it up and text what do we feel like God was telling us, but then we'd see each other at school and we'd talk about it. Well, what do you think about that story that we read in Matthew and in John and Luke, all these different stories and different chapters that we read in the book. And it was just like, from then on, it just kept going, kept growing.
Do you feel like there's a verse or a story in Scripture that really stuck with you?
Yeah, I would say Matthew 7, verse 7. It's asking you shall receive, knocking the door will be open unto you, seeking you will find. And I felt like once I read that verse, I was like, man, like that's powerful because even still today, that holds true. And God's word is true. And so with that verse, I realized like, man, when I pray, when I ask you, Lord, to change my heart posture, maybe it shows up 5 minutes after I pray, an hour or 2 days, a week later, he'll give me an opportunity to change my heart posture. Mm-hmm. Lord, please take away my desires, my lust, my pride, my ego. He'll give me an opportunity to do those things, to surrender before him. I felt like that was just a powerful verse for me. It was like, that's when I realized God does hear me. God does answer prayers. And he gives us opportunities every day to find that, to find the truth, to live the truth, and to do the truth.
So it sounds like you were really able to strengthen like the roots in your faith walk while you were in high school.
Yeah.
How did that play a role in your transition to then coming to Texas?
Yeah, I feel like it played a big part, big role coming into Texas, knowing that you just listed off, two-time All-American, 2023 LA Times Lineman of the Year, but knowing that that's not my identity, knowing that the moment I step campus at the University of Texas, it all starts over. It means nothing, you know. Our strength and conditioning coach, Tori Beckton, he acknowledges that as well. He's one of those guys that tells us when we get there, all those stars, once you get here, go out the window. You're no longer that 5-star Brandon Baker as people would try and portray me as. And so I feel like just humbling myself coming into Texas, knowing that this is going to be a new experience, a new journey, and it's not going to be the same as it was when I was in high school. It's going to have its trials, it's going to have its moments. And so just embracing that, embracing the change and embracing this new chapter in my life, I feel like was big.
And coming out of high school, as your high school coach said that you would, you had a lot of different options as far as where you would go on to play football. Why did you choose Texas?
I loved Austin. First of all, I feel like besides the weather, you had mentioned it, besides the weather, it kind of has a little West Coast feel to it. I feel like it's like a mini LA in a sense. Honestly, being here doesn't really feel I'm too far away from home. So don't really get homesick quite often. Like you mentioned, a lot of food spots, a lot of things to do here in Austin. But I also loved the coaching staff, how genuine they were in recruiting. And the moment I stepped on campus, it was the same thing. Nothing changed. And the teammates that I had the chance to be with my freshman year, but also today, guys like Kelvin Banks, Jake Majors, Cameron Williams, Hayden Connor, all in the NFL now, but being able to learn from those guys, knowing that I can gain that knowledge and experience from them, just being around them, that was a huge part for me in developing as a player, but also as a man.
Yeah, you named a lot of, top NFL offensive linemen. What are some things specifically that you feel that you learned from them?
Yeah, just their habits, how their habits set them apart. I had the I'm trying to think of the word. Can't really think of the word honestly, but I had the privilege of sitting next to Kelvin Banks in meetings. So just watching how he went about watching film every day, how he went about writing notes every day, that was big. But also watching Jake Majors, how he took care of his body every day, and how consistent he was every day in what he was doing. Hayden Connor having his routines, doing the same thing every day, not changing it. And same with Cameron Williams, just watching him be able to work every day and watching how he went about his business, it was huge.
So you talked about identity, like as you were coming into Texas, that you were not, shouldn't be finding your identity in all of the, recruiting stars, et cetera. So now, as a Texas football player, what is your identity?
My identity is a follower of Jesus Christ, knowing and acknowledging that he is the reason I'm here today, knowing that he's the reason why I have this breath in my lungs and have this heart pumping with blood. My identity is that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ.
And who is Jesus to you?
Jesus to me, that's a powerful question. He's everything. He's the greatest example. He's the greatest teacher. He's the greatest friend. Loving. So many different words you can use to describe him, but he's all in one, honestly. That'd be the phrase to use, honestly.
And I ask this question a lot, but I feel like you're a great person to ask this question because you've been there before.
Yeah.
So one question that we tend to always ask is, if someone doesn't know Jesus or they don't know where to start in their walk, what would your advice be to them?
Yeah, my advice would be, even still today, as someone who does follow him, sometimes our faith may vary, and sometimes we are knocked off on the straight and narrow path. Sometimes we may look left, sometimes we may look right, sometimes we look behind us. But knowing that no matter what we've done, Jesus will always love us. Knowing that no matter what we do in our lives, that doesn't take away from his love for us. For he will always love us and he will always be there for us. Just acknowledging that it's not about us. Knowing that Jesus Christ is so much more than we can ever imagine. He's so much more than our struggles, our pains, our trials, our ups and downs, our happiness. He's so much more. He's just so much more. So knowing that he's always there for us. And even when you do begin, and even when you do start, even when you do fall short, knowing that no matter what, he's always going to be there. He's always going to be in that same place that he was when you were walking in your faith or when you didn't know who he was. He's always there in that same place. It is us that takes the steps backwards, but he's always there with open arms. So just acknowledging that, knowing that he is perfect and we aren't, and we need somebody to uplift us and hold us, and that's him. That's Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a great answer. There's a lot of truth in your answer, and appreciate that. What is it like to be a Christian on the Texas football team?
It can vary, honestly. You have not just in the locker room, not just in football, but also in this world. You have some people that are in this world or of this world or maybe trying, to learn, and then, maybe not, So I would say it's powerful, definitely powerful, knowing that, right? Knowing that it varies, there's truth and power in that, knowing that the moment I walk into that building, guys can look at me or turn to me and know that Jesus Christ is with me, and knowing like, hey, when I'm feeling this way, I can reach out to Brandon. Knowing when I just need somebody to talk to, I can reach out to Brandon. Knowing when I need somebody to pray for me, I can talk to Brandon. Knowing when I need somebody to just listen to me, I can go to Brandon. And so I feel like in that, it's just powerful, knowing that his truth is just so much greater, right? We actually had a Bible study. I mentioned that we have a Bible study group going on every week, every Wednesday. And this week's topic was how we can have strength and confidence in the Lord, but also how can you find that? So there was a few verses that were included in the Bible study, and one of them was about how when I'm weak, then I'm strong. So knowing that no matter, even myself included, I know that there's guys in the locker room that I can go to and they can be like, hey, everything's going to be all right. Just keep going on, because when you're weak, then you're strong. Because in those times of weakness, Jesus Christ is there to lift you up.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that we are all used, everyone in the locker room, each and every one of us in the locker room, even those who may not know yet or know now, each and every one of us is used for God's glory, some way, shape, or form. So I feel like in that variety, in that vary, is very powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned that each and every one of you is used for God's glory. Mm-hmm. That's certainly true.
Yeah.
For you, you've been blessed with a lot of different gifts.
Sure.
Of course, like your physical attributes and the gifts that you have with football and how you can use that for God's glory. What do you feel that your spiritual gifts are?
I would say communicating, listening. I would say those are my two biggest ones, being able to communicate, but also to listen. But I feel like sometimes it can be a little difficult sometimes acknowledging them, whether it be my flesh wanting to listen to maybe something that I know I shouldn't be listening to, feeding my flesh, or maybe sometimes in my heart I may may hear something but not communicate it. Vice versa. I feel like those two work hand in hand together, communicating and listening. 50% of communication is listening. The other half is speaking. So I feel like for me, tying those two together will be the biggest growth in my spiritual walk. I can still continue improving on.
And it sounds like, although you're just in your second year as a
Yeah.
sophomore here at Texas, that you've really taken on a leadership role. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I would say for sure. Just knowing the younger guys, which is kind of crazy, about a year difference, right, from freshman to sophomore year, but also even junior and seniors, knowing that they can view me as an example. I feel like that's just a testimony of Jesus Christ in my life, knowing that my consistency or my drive or my strength or my confidence or my hope isn't my own, but his. And in his light, I'm able to share it and shine it with others.
So this season, you've had a great year, personally, and the team's had a pretty solid year as well. But for you personally, how do you balance the success you've had? How do you balance the confidence versus humility?
Mm-hmm. Knowing that no matter what I do in life, excluding the football field, but also within the football field, knowing that I can't get to perfection, but I'm going to do everything I can to try and get there. Using that as humility, knowing that I'm not perfect. I'm going to fall short. I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to have that error on the field, but knowing that, hey, my confidence isn't in my ability, but in Jesus Christ and his abilities that he's given me. Because my abilities, my talents on and off the field aren't my own, but his that he's given me. So acknowledging that truth, I feel like it's very powerful on the field. Know that, hey, no matter what happens in this rep, no matter what happens in this game, it's already written. Like you mentioned, we've had a solid season. It's come with its up and downs. Hasn't been perfect. Nothing is. But that Mississippi State game, being down, 17, maybe more, might have been more. But yeah, coming down, but knowing in that time, it was just like, man, like the scoreboard might have been 31-17. And I just felt at peace, knowing that what already happened has happened, knowing that the outcome has already happened. And so knowing that I can just step on that field and play free, and knowing that, hey, I may mess up this next play or I may not. This next play may be a touchdown, maybe an interception or a sack fumble, but knowing that it's already written, knowing that I can just step in there and play free and let go of any worries and humble myself and also be confident in that humility, knowing that, hey, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a very wise mindset. Another question I have for you. So are there any specific teammates or coaches that within your faith journey have really kind of helped carry you along?
Yeah, for sure. There's a few guys, might be more than a few. One that comes to mind is Michael Taff. Seeing his leadership, man, that's been huge. I listed 4 guys in the offensive line room that helped my development as a player, but also as a person. And coming to Texas, Michael Taff wasn't one of those people that I thought would be. But the moment you step in that locker room, you just feel his presence, knowing that that's a God-fearing man right there. DeAndre Moore has been a guy as well. Hiro Kanu, Trevor Gooseby, Ridge Barker. Yeah, I may be missing a few guys, but those are some guys for sure.
As you've been growing in your faith in the Lord, how has that impacted like relationships with your family and your friends?
Yeah, I feel like it's been huge, honestly. I feel like growing in that faith with the Lord, the interactions are a little different. you know, in the Bible, it tells us that we are given a new life in Jesus Christ, that our old life is gone. And in my old life, I was drinking, I was smoking, I was, lusting. I was doing all these different things. And I was also doing with friends, with friends that I still have today, best friends. But the interactions are just different, knowing that I'm a new person. And those people have respected that and appreciated that of me, that, hey, like, Brandon has come to the Lord, and he's decided to let go of certain things. And there's still things that I still continue needing to let go, to surrender to the Lord. But I feel like once I started growing in my faith, others can feel that. And interactions were just different, honestly. That'd be the best way to describe it. Interactions were different. Yeah.
I appreciate your transparency with things you struggle with.
Yeah.
We all go through that. We all have different things that we struggle with. But as far as letting go, do you feel like, how hard has it been for you to let go of things of the world?
It's been difficult, like I said, or like I mentioned, it's all around us. No matter how far we are, or no matter, our faith in Jesus Christ, we're still going to have the temptations of the world, because we're here in the world, the same way Jesus Christ was tempted by the devil. He was led by the Spirit to be tempted by the devil, so we can follow him and his examples. Like I mentioned, on the football field, I know I'm not going to get to perfect, but I'm going to try my best to get there. But knowing that, hey, Jesus Christ, he's perfect. He denied Satan 3 times. I may deny Satan 1 time and fall back. Or I may deny him 2 times and fall back. Or I may deny him 7 times and, go back. But knowing that, like, Jesus Christ is my Savior. That yes, I do fall short, and yes, I am a sinner still today. But I know if I'm blessed with another opportunity to be here on this earth once more, he's not done with me. And his mercy and his grace are so much more than my sin. And knowing that, hey, my Father, I've fallen and I've fallen again and I've fallen again, but I need your help. I need your strength, because my strength isn't enough. Because my will isn't enough to stop me from doing this. So please show me how I can. Please give me the strength, give me the courage, the boldness that I may need to do it, to do your will and not my own. That's what it is.
From a practical standpoint, so you're in Austin, Texas, University of Texas. You're surrounded by all these different temptations.
For sure.
How do you stay on the path?
Yeah, so spend a lot of time inside. I'm going to be honest with you, spend a lot of time inside the house. So my fiance and I live together, and we have our little puppy Biscuit. So we spend a lot of time in the house watching TV, doing Bible study. I may play the game occasionally during the weekends. Yeah, just staying inside. Staying inside would be the biggest one, for sure.
Yep. No, that's good. Yeah. It sounds so simple, but it's effective. I've been there too.
Yeah, for sure.
As we were kind of talking about earlier, there's more and more athletes that are being outspoken about their faith.
Yeah.
And that's not like a walk podcast thing. That's like across the board, like post game interviews, players putting verses on their eye blacks. And it's been incredible to see the impact that has had. What do you see being the future of faith in sports?
I see it continue to grow. I feel like, this world has so many trends, so many different things that are trendy and may look nice, that are shiny. But Jesus Christ is always the same. He's the same today as he will be tomorrow, as he was yesterday. And so knowing that much and knowing that he's using, like you mentioned, it's not just the walk thing, but universal, that he's using many different people of many different walks of life to bring light to his glory. I believe it's going to continue growing because of that. Because yeah, the new $500 shoes may be trendy today, but tomorrow it's just going to be the next thing. But with Jesus Christ, it's like, it doesn't change. He'll be the same today as he was tomorrow and yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's the reason it will continue to grow. Yeah.
Man, that's a great answer. Are there any other stories of faith that you'd like to share today?
Yeah, let me think about it. Actually. Yeah, so I had mentioned briefly depression in my years of 8th grade to about sophomore year. I had a difficult time. It was like dealing with different relationship problems, suicidal thoughts, and it was a very hard time. In those years, I felt alone. I felt very vulnerable. It was hard for sure. Like I mentioned, I felt alone, but I was seen by everybody, which is just it's a very powerful statement, but it's true. And so many others feel like that each and every day. I feel like sharing what I went through and others being vulnerable about what they went through will help others acknowledge that, hey, I'm not the only one going through this. Knowing that, hey, Jacob may have been experiencing that, last year, but I see him today and he looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that I went through that and that period of darkness and those trials and tribulations and in those dark moments, sharing it out loud and being vulnerable with people will be big, because once they seen, hey, Brandon shared that on that podcast, others may have not known what was going on, but in those years from 8th grade to sophomore year, compared to where he is today, I know that it was in those moments, in those dark times, and in those trials and tribulations that made him who he was today. That in that weakness, Christ was with him. And in that darkness, Christ was with him. And some people don't know that because they're not told that. They're not around it. Or some people may just feel that burden not to want to share it. So I feel like a message that I would like to share is just be open, be vulnerable. You're not the only one going through it. And, like we've been talking about, Jesus Christ has gone through everything that we may ever experience here on this earth. So knowing that truth, knowing that there's no hurt, no pain, that is too much for Jesus Christ. For he died on that cross for us.
Yeah. Amen. Many football fans might look at Brandon Baker and see, oh, he's this, great player for Texas, such a bright future ahead of him, and just think that everything's all good.
Yeah.
But what many people probably don't realize is what you experienced through 8th grade, it's through to about your sophomore year. Right. So what did that period, that time frame of darkness, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was just a lot of toxic, I wouldn't say a lot. There was some toxic relationships in my life that I experienced at that time that kind of led me astray, where I may have placed too much of my identity in my relationships. I feel like I have a strong desire and a purpose to help others. And in that moment of time, I feel like I allowed others to abuse that purpose that I have in my heart to help others. And I feel like more and more of that just led me to let that go and be so consumed in others rather than saying, hey, well, yeah, I'm trying to help others so much to where I feel like I can't help myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a powerful boundary that people with big hearts and people with, I would say hearts in general, need to have in some point of their lives.
Yeah.
Knowing that like one is enough. So that's what it was. I placed so much of me into toxic relationships that it consumed me. And therefore, in those dark times, I followed others, believing like, hey, and we mentioned briefly, right? Like growing up, I wasn't, the Brandon Baker, like you mentioned, that people may look at me as now. I was that 6-year-old clumsy kid, annoying kid at times, with bursts of energy, just wanting to play. And so as you get older, you try and seek that validation in others. And that's exactly what I did. I tried seeking that validation in others, and all it did was leave me empty. All it did was leave me hurt, full of pain and anxiety and fear of not wanting that to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And that darkness and that emptiness, the moment I saw that TikTok, I knew that there was more out there. Knowing that, hey, God can use this hurt and this purpose for a reason. Knowing that I can let go.
Do you remember which pastor that was?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's some deep stuff. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for asking.
So for the, the big fellas, the O linemen,
Yeah.
they never get as much love as they should. And
Right.
so often that truly like in the trenches, that's where the game is decided.
For sure.
But for the young linemen that might have been in the spot you were, in your elementary school days,
Yeah.
where haven't yet developed physically and might be confused or discouraged.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to them?
My advice would be just keep going. Don't let what others may say or do affect what God's put into your heart. Like I mentioned, you may not know today, you may not know tomorrow, but God is using you for a purpose and for a reason. And that drive or that purpose that you feel in your heart is there for a reason. Pour into that and don't pour externally into what people are trying to say or do to you. Mm-hmm. Knowing that in a few years, those comments, those people aren't relevant. Mm-hmm. In the moment, it may feel like it's the end of the world, but as you continue going on, keep going, you'll acknowledge that, hey, that was just fire to the fuel.
I've got 2 more questions for you. So one is, it's very clear that you're, really strong in your faith, and none of us are perfect, but it's
Absolutely.
Clear like where your heart is. So what are some of the daily practices that you do to strengthen your faith?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every morning I start off. So I wake up about 6 in the morning, start off with prayer, meditation, and then I read my Bible. Rather be on my phone on the Bible app or physically. That's what I do every morning. It takes about 30 minutes praying to the Lord, meditating on what I just prayed about. Well, Lord, I ask you to give me the courage to speak your will, to do your will, to seek your will. And then afterwards, meditate on, well, what does that look like throughout the day? Knowing that today I will have practice, knowing that I have class, I may have meetings. How might that show up today? And then reading his word. I just meditated on it, but also his word will guide me and direct me. It's wild how there is no coincidence. I had an interaction with one of my academic advisors, Mr. P, and he was just like, before I had left the study hall, he was like, you're gonna be all right. Your steps are counted. I wake up the next morning, the verse of the day is that exact verse. Do not worry, your steps are counted. And And I was just like, wow. You know, there's been a few times where that's happened, and it's like there's no coincidence. So believing in that, and during my day, I have Bible study with my fiance, but also weekly I mentioned we have Bible study with a few guys on the team. So just being consistent, I feel like it's a big thing as well. Being consistent with your word, because I myself in my faith, I notice that the moment I stop reading the word, the moment I may stop praying or stop doing these things, the farther away I feel. Like I mentioned, in reality, Jesus Christ is at that very spot you left him at. It's you that's taking those steps backwards. So the more you pour in, the more you pour in, the more you pour in, the more you get out of it.
And the last question I have for you today, I'm sure a lot of Texas Longhorns fans will be tuning into this podcast and might be touched by your story. So for that person out there that doesn't know like what direction to go, or they might be interested in God, but they don't know where to start,
Yeah.
what would you point them to?
I would say I would point them to the word. That would be my first answer. But just listen to that still small voice. The Holy Spirit is around. He's everywhere. You know, my shirt here says God is everywhere. Literally. That interaction with the person making your coffee, the interaction at that gas station with that person, the interaction you have with that random person walking by. God is everywhere, and he's trying to speak to you. Just be still and listen to him, and he'll guide you. It may, like you mentioned, it's not perfect. You may hear that voice a couple times, be like, man, like, what's going on? You may hear another time, be like, oh, that was him all along. But just listening to his voice, I feel like that'd be a powerful message. Just listening. He's everywhere.
Yeah. Amen. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Brandon. Appreciate you
Of course.
taking
Thank
the
you for
time to
having me.
do so. And if you're listening, and as Brandon mentioned, like a great place to start is the Word. So if you don't have a Bible, the Walk Foundation would love to send you a Bible. So you could email us at info@thewalkfoundation.org. So if you're looking for a Bible, again, that's info@thewalkfoundation.org. Thanks so much, Brandon, and hope you have a great rest of the season.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.